Prices are up again this month, and the surprise to the upside is clearly in the data. But surprisingly, prices were not as strong as what everybody was thinking, including myself. So what happened in the first month of the spring market? Stay tuned as I break down this month's market watch for you. Now, if you are looking for some help on how to navigate this real estate market and you're looking to take action in the real estate market that is this spring market right now, whether that's buying, selling, or investing, and you want to work with someone who actually knows what's going on despite all the confusing headlines, you can do so by booking a call with me using the link that's on the screen right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Simply click on the date and the time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and a question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Properties TV. My name is Zen, and I run and operate a RE/MAX brokerage in the Greater Toronto area, on top of making awesome educational content for real estate just like this one for you. Now, if you find these videos helpful in your real estate journey, whether it's buying your first home, your first investment property, selling your home, or just, general curiosity about the real estate market, then help me spread the knowledge out there by smashing the like button and subscribing to the channel. Because this is an unspoken rule in YouTube. Free content, you like and subscribe. Now, the first months of spring number are in, and the headlines that you're going to be hearing are essentially that sales are down 37% from last year, which is a given. Prices are still down 15% from last year, not as bad as 20% from last month, but also a given. And we'll continue seeing these year-over-year price drops until about May or June or so. But, the sentiment may change before that. But as usual, all this year-over-year stuff really means nothing because you have to look at the month-over-month numbers because the change in our market is wild. Here they are. The average prices are $1.1 million again, up 1.2% from last month. Prices for the first time in 9 months broke 1.1 mil, which brings us back to essentially May 2020 prices. And you can see that over here. Meaning, if prices stay flat for the rest of spring, the year-over-year numbers will be positive in 2 months. Dun, 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 dun. The magic of base effect. It's just math. Granted, given what I was hearing and also what I was seeing from our team when we were transacting, I actually thought we would see prices increase a little bit more. Like I was thinking like 2 to 3% instead of the 1.2. Now sales are up 44% from last month, which is a big time increase, but that's the upside I've been talking about for a while. Now we look at new listings, they're around like 11,000 or so, which is up 33%, which is actually a good number. It's about where the 10-year average is on a percentage increase. But the problem is this, right here. The active listings are only up 5%. Meaning the amount of stuff to buy at the end of each month didn't really increase, which it should in March. Ultimately bringing our months of inventory for the entire Greater Toronto area down to 1.47 months. This is an astonishingly low number given that we were at 3 months of inventory 2 months ago. Yeah, just let that sink in. This is why I thought prices would have increased 2% or maybe 3%, but instead we got the 1.2. Now you can look here at the micro markets for all of GTA, and they're essentially the same from last month. No real huge swings anywhere, which is kind of the norm in the spring market. Now, one thing I will note is that the inventory is below 2 months in every single segment of the market. This is a very strong spring seller's market. Now, the second thing is that I personally found it very, very interesting that the Toronto 4 and 6 semis didn't go up in price. That was what I would argue was the hottest segment of the market in March, or at least what it felt like. In fact, it went down a bit. So maybe because last month it had a 10% month-over-month increase and we're just like leveling up. I don't know, right? But despite the prices coming down in the data from last month, I can tell you the 416 semis are super duper hot. This is why there's 1 month of inventory and it's super, super low. So what conclusions can you draw from all of this data I just pointed out to you? Well, prices are stable. There's a big uptick in terms of sales from what we saw in February, which by the way is part of the seasonal average norm, and we'll see more on that later. And the price increasing by 1.2% is also kind of like a seasonal norm as well. That'll kind of be the theme for this video. Now, the average price increase usually from February to March averages about 1.46% in the last 10 years. Meaning right now we're actually a bit under. So my theory that the entire market is reverting back to seasonal norms after like 3 years of crazy wild swings is probably the case. And we'll find out more in April. But just as a note, if my theory is correct that we're like back to seasonal norms, we should see about a 1% increase in price in April, because that's kind of what it actually normally does, seasonally speaking. Now, here's the interesting thing that I see when I dig really deep into the numbers. The reason we have seasonal norms and an increase in pricing still actually derives itself from the lack of inventory. Now, let me provide you with some context as to what I mean. Usually, as we go from, say, like January to March to start of spring, inventory does build up at like a normal rate. However, this year in 2023, we barely got any new listings in January and February, which meant that our base in which we go up from and increase from in 2023 is super, super, super low. And you could see that in the data that we didn't get huge bursts of new listings to balance out that lack of inventory from January and February. So nothing added to bring it back to the normal. And if you've heard me talk about how we're at record lows, like 20 plus years for new listings, this is why. The level of demand we're seeing right now is nowhere near the peak of 2022 or even 2021. It's just that the level of demand for the level of inventory we're getting is still in the favor of the sellers right now in most parts of GTA, essentially low-rise homes. Condos are significantly weaker, but still kind of stronger, getting a little bit stronger. Now, let me show you this context in a chart from over here. This chart shows you here the active listings, meaning the number of listings available at the end of each month, going from the month of February to March. You can clearly see the amount of active listings that should be building up in 2023 is at a record low. We are talking 27-year record low in terms of active listing increase. Like, we're going back to the 90s level housing crash for March to see this kind of number again. Meaning all the new listings that have come out in March have essentially been bought and absorbed. Historically, we should be at about a 25% increase for active listings going from February to March. But this year, we got 5. That's 5 times less. Yeah. See the problem, right? Now, you must wonder, is it because we didn't get enough new listings? Well, the answer is yes and no. If you have a look at the chart over here, seasonally speaking, we're basically at the historic amount of new listings as a percentage increase from February, which means seasonally normal, meaning that the rate of new listings is correct. So no. But the problem is that the base we started with in January and February was anemic, meaning we're seeing more buyers come to the market seasonally speaking than there are sellers. Crazy, right? Imagine saying this 9 months ago. You would be laughed out of the room you said that in as like a permanent bull for the real estate market. Yeah, but that's the data. Then we look at the chart here for the seasonal sales, and the surprise to the upside, like I was saying, is really high. It's up to 44%, as I was saying earlier in the video. And the historic norm is 33%. Same story I've been spelling out for the last 2 months. More buyers than are sellers because sellers do not have to sell because they are backstopped by the big banks right now, which allows them to negative amortize, so they don't have to distress and fire sell their properties, saved by the banking regulators. Now, if you're wondering why this chart zigs up and down, it's because in 2020, that was the pandemic, right? So sales plummeted. Then in the craziness of 2021, sales increased. Then 2022 was the first time we saw the rate hike where you see the things go down. And this is why I've been saying the last 2 years in March has been crazy and why I've been waiting for this data to show you, right? It's nuts. Now, our increase is back to what the 2021 increase as a percentage is, but we're lacking the supply. So I would argue if we actually had more listings, we would probably see more sales. This is why prices are moving up despite how high interest rates are right now, and the fact that the affordability on the monthly mortgage cost basis is actually worse than what it was before, right? It's wild. Now let's zoom out and look at the historical numbers, nominally speaking, so you can see where we're at. In March, new listings were at like 11,000, and we have not seen this few listings in March since 2002, 21-year low again, right? See the trend? Here are the sales, and they're around like 6,900, and we haven't seen sales this low since 2008. So as a comparison, the craziness of 2021, we saw the double amount of sales in March than we see currently in 2023. So for active listings over here, surprisingly, the same as the last 2 years. Now, this one's interesting to explain, right? Because again, March has been one of those like inflection points for the market for the last 3 years. March 2020, we saw the start of the inventory piling up because of the pandemic and people thinking that the real estate market's gonna crash and they're trying to list it, right? In 2021, everything was being bought. In 2022, everything was also being bought, but then inventory started building up really fast for the first time since the rate hike announcement in like middle of March or so. So all of these data points are rather interesting to parse through, right? But here's how it's summarized the entire market right now, given all the data I just showed you. Essentially, what you need to know is this. March increases this year were a seasonal norm that we normally would see except if you take out the last 3 years, they'll create wild swings. Most people just forget what it feels like to be in a normal seasonal uptick, or they are realtors and they haven't been licensed long enough to remember this. So should we see prices increase by the seasonal norm of like 1 or 2% a month in April and May? Yeah, probably. The percentage of new listings we're getting is also in line with the seasonal norm as a percentage. What's off is the starting amount of new listings we got was super, super, super low this year, which is why it feels like there's nothing to buy right now. And this is exactly why the good properties are seeing 10 plus offers. And yes, they can price it very low for that reason. And also, yes, bully offers are back in certain pockets, but they're not selling like 100,000 over market value, not listing price. They are not. The bully offers I'm seeing are like $10,000, $20,000 more than I would say what the market value is or was, depending on the time when you're watching this. So this is what a normal seasonal change is. So if things stay status quo, I'll be incredibly happy that things are going back to normal. Hallelujah, right? It also looks like the bond market is stable again. Fixed rates should be where they are for the long term. Bank of Canada is probably going to pause next week as well. So things look pretty stable from that front as well. And even more sure than last time, I think the bottom is behind us. Yeah, definitely. Anyways, that's a wrap for this video. And if you are looking to make a move in the spring real estate market and you want to work with our team who clearly understands the data, as you can see from me regurgitating in a different form for you, plus, like a lot of people love working with us based on the experience they've had. You can check out all the 5-star Google reviews we have. So if you do want to work with us, you can book a strategy call with me using the link that's right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya! Now that I'm done watching this video, I think you should check out this video. And you know what? Why don't you check out this video too?